Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the last video, we built a simple to-do application using the useState hook. But what if we want to manage our state in a more organized and scalable way, especially as our app grows? Well, that's where the useReducer hook comes in. In this video, we will refactor our existing to-do app using useReducer, and I will explain how it works, why it's useful, and when we should use it instead of useState. So let's jump right into it. So to begin with, we will first comment out these useState hooks, and we'll have a common initial state as an object. Common initial state, which will be an object, and this object will take one input text as key and one task list as key. And this task list will be array, the same array that we had defined earlier for the set task and task useState hook. So here we can have key of id. Here we are initializing it with 1 and a key with task with the default value of add task. So that is the first step for reducer method, creating initial state. Now in the second step, we are going to create the reducer function. So what this reducer function does, so we'll have a reducer function, for example, to reducer, which can be an arrow function, and it will take two parameters. One is the state and the other one is the action. We'll have a switch method which will return the value based on the action. It will have case which will return the modified state, and the case 2 which will also return some state, and there will be default case which will also return the default state. Now to use this to-do reducer function, we have to restructure it. That we can do this like this, where we can have the final state and a dispatch method will be coming out from useReducer hook, and this will take two parameters. So the first one is the reducer function, and the second one is the initial state. Since we are not using this to-do handler, we can comment this as well. Now this is pretty much the useReducer implementation for this function. Now how we are going to use this in our JSX element. So here from the return method, we will be accessing the state from this destructured use reducer final state. So we can easily use this input text as final state dot the input text, and here where we are on change of where we are triggering this set input text, or where we are setting this input text, we can use this handler dispatch action, and here in the dispatch action we can pass this as an object. What this object will hold? This object will hold the type and payload. Type will tell what type of action is it dispatching. We can have on change here, and the payload will hold the value that it is passing on. Similar to this, we can put here the same on the on-click functionality of the add button. We can have the dispatch action, which will send this object and the payload. Here in this case, the payload will be the final state input text. Now let's set up our to-do reducer function. So as we know, the action that we are getting is from the dispatch function, and from this we have a parameter of type and payload. One of the type is on change. So based on that, we can have our switch case ready as as a switch case ready as action.type. The first action type is on change. We can return an object here. This object will be the state that we have passed from the useReducer method, and within the state we have the input text, which will be setting up with the action dot payload. In a similar way, when we are dispatching add, we are going to destructure the state first, and then within the state we will take the task list destructure the task add the new object where the id will be the state task list dot length plus 1, and the task would be action dot payload, and at the end of this array we'll set up the input text as blank. So that is pretty much it. Okay, and also we would also need to Map this final state, final state dot task list dot map, and it is going to map through the same each element. Within the each element, we have the ID and task. So let's test this out. Now we are going to test this in the browser. So we're going to add something here. Getting added. And we can see it is working pretty well. Now that we have seen the use reducer hook in action, let's talk about why it's useful and when we should consider using it instead of usestate. So why is use reducer useful? With usestate, we usually update state directly using a value. It works great for simple states like counter, a form field, or a single object. But as the app grows, we often end up managing multiple related pieces of state, like to-dos, filters, editing modes, etc. We may also end up writing multiple use-state hooks or complex update logic inside our event handlers. That's where the use reducer shines. Instead of manually updating state, we send an action, and the reducer function handles how the state should change. In our case, the dispatch method. It dispatch an action on change and add. It gives our component a centralized, cleaner structure to manage state transition, just like Redux, but simpler and scope to that component. Then why should you use useReducer instead of useState? Well, the useState for simple isolated pieces of state like toggles, input fields, or counters, and use the useReducer when your state logic is complex or multi-state. You have multiple related state values, you want cleaner, more testable code, or you're implementing features like undo or redo, or shared patterns like Redux. In short, the more your component logic starts to feel messy with useState, the more likely useReducer is better fit. So there you have it. We took our basic to-do app and refactored it using the useReducer hook to make our state management more organized and scalable. As our apps grow, patterns like this will really help keep our code clean and maintainable. If you found this helpful, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more practical React tutorials. In the next video, we will take this even further, maybe by combining useReducer with useContext to manage global state without Redux. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.